Good afternoon, everyone. This is Alan Lutz with Alpha Fraternity Management, and I am pleased to welcome you to our webinar today, talking about how our members are different today than they may have been as we would have related to the experience when we attended college. We have a good group joining us today. By all means, please feel free to use the queue during the presentation to ask questions, and there will be plenty of time at the end of our presentation to ask questions and so forth. So I'm going to begin by sharing a screen, and I've got a presentation that will hopefully you'll find interesting and beneficial. Please bear with me 1 second while we get our technology to work. Okay, hopefully everybody is seeing our screen at this point, and we'll introduce the topic of how today's member is different. I want to start out just sharing a little bit about myself and our perspective and how we come to some of the conclusions that we're sharing. I'm Alan Lutz, president of Alpha Fraternity Management. I've been involved in fraternities for over 40 years, going back to when I joined Delta Tau Delta while I was at the University of Michigan. Had a great experience there and have just continued to be involved ever since then. And professionally, I have a company that is in real estate and management and development, as well as construction. Been doing this for 37 years professionally. And in 2006, launched Alpha Fraternity Management, what is now Alpha Fraternity Management. So it really focuses on working with group housing on our college campuses. In addition to that, we've performed more than 250 fraternity and sorority construction projects. So this kind of gives us a unique perspective of how we work with today's students, what they're looking for, and how to interact with them. We have a network of companies that provide these services, focusing not only on management, but on accounting, on construction, and real estate, and so forth. And again, this is just a breadth of the services that we're offering. But we're now working on 84 campuses, 27 different national fraternities are within our portfolio, 6 national partnerships, 33 states. So again, we've got a little bit of perspective on these particular issues. So I'll just start by trying to talk about the makeup of today's students. And as I do this, I'm painting with a very broad brush. There's certainly going to be exceptions to these rules. Not everybody is going to feel the same way. So we're dealing with a lot of generalizations, but overall, I think they hold up in trying to understand the different perspectives and the different ways that today's students are looking at things. And one of the ways that today's student population is defined is as Generation Z. And they'll also be referred to, you might hear from time to time, Gen Z or Zoomers. That's generally people that were born between 1997 and 2012, which would make them between 12 and 27 years old as of today. So there's a definition here, or a comment by Robert Katz, who's a researcher at Stanford University, who's done quite a bit of research into this area. And he gives a pretty good perspective of how he would define today's Gen Zer students. And that's as a self-driver who deeply cares about others, strives for a diverse community, highly collaborative and social, values flexibility, relevance, authenticity, and non-hierarchical leadership. And while dismayed about inherited issues like climate change, has a pragmatic attitude about the work that has to be done to address those issues. So I think that if you refer to that definition, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that really talk about today's members and what they value. And I'll touch on each of those with a little greater definition and discussion here as we go through here. So one of the biggest things to consider how today's members are different from prior generations of members is this is a group that has always been native to technology, meaning that they haven't ever known a time in their life where they haven't had broadband internet, smartphones, all of the websites and apps and all of those sorts of things. So more than ever before, they are completely immersed and integrated into the technology. 95% of the 13 to 17-year-olds have a smartphone, and 97% of this age group uses at least one social media platform. The most used social media platform is actually YouTube, and that is not only for entertainment, but if you look at the trends in how today's students learn, they use it as a learning platform. And I'm sure many of us have used it. If we need to figure out how to fix something in the house, you go to YouTube, you look up a video, there's the information. And our students are used to that more than ever before. In fact, they have virtual tools and apps that are guiding nearly every aspect of their lives. In our college campuses, it's things like Canva, and the different platforms that their classes are streamed through and their homework is turned in, scheduling programs, entertainment, all of that are apps that are going through their smartphones, and they have multiple devices. It's very common to see students in a social setting around, let's say, a dining room table where there might be a half a dozen people there, where they have their smartphones and they have a tablet and a laptop, and they've got a big screen TV going, all of those screens working at one time. So this is certainly a group that is really focused and using screens hours and hours of every day. Text messaging, Snapchat, and email tends to be their primary forms of communication that they have used. They are now starting to realize weaknesses that has caused in their relationships. But all of this has allowed them to become very self-reliant, using all of these tools to guide their life. So as we, who may not be as immersed in technology, work with them, we need to be looking at in our programming, in what we do in our chapter houses and our interactions with them to really create tech-driven experiences. And this is why a lot of the online learning regarding hazing and sexual assault prevention, all of those sorts of things have gone to apps and online courses and things like that. It's very much a way that our students today have become accustomed to learning. Within the chapter house, providing smart boards and large monitors and screens where they can do, plug in and do presentations, and where they have their team learning sessions and so forth are a priority. Creating particular topics that you would like them to know about, using online videos that they can do on demand. Certainly game-based learning systems are growing more and more in popularity, as especially the men, not exclusively, but there is a big gamer mentality where a lot of their entertainment is based on video games through their different screens. And so game-based learning systems can add challenge and, again, a platform that they're more likely to be interested in. And then providing do-it-yourself learning options are increasingly relevant to today's students. Following this line, non-traditional education has become completely accepted by our members. A good part of this goes to the pandemic, where for 3 to 4 semesters, all of the learning was online. Today, we have entire degree programs that can be done online. Even in a more traditional college session, a third to a half of the classes are being offered in online formats. And so the members today are comfortable with this. They prefer to self-educate, which means to learn at their own pace and at the times that they have available and that they prioritize. All of this has really created a big shift in the educational environment. And then as part of this, this current generation is looking at the college degree as less important than it was before. And there's several reasons for that. One reason is the cost of education has gotten so expensive. We'll touch on that a little bit more. Others are, that we're in a very strong employment environment. We are in the most challenging hiring and employment environment that I have experienced in 35 years in business. And employers that are desperate to bring in talent, that college degree has become less important for entry-level positions, even a move-up position. It becomes more important when we get into the upper echelons of business and our organizations. But people are able to get a pretty good job that's providing good wages and benefits without a college degree at this point. And because of that, more and more students are examining other educational options and career paths. Finances are an absolute top concern of most of our members. There is a segment on many colleges that has very affluent students, and this may not be as large a concern to them, but certainly the vast majority of students are very concerned about the cost of college, student debt, those sorts of things. On the good side, college is more open and there are more affordable options than there ever have before. But the affordability options tend to be a slightly different path than the traditional college programs that we're used to. A 4-year program with the dormitories and fraternities and things like that. There are many options, and because of that, we see more first-time degree holders than ever emerging out of the colleges. But no matter that, finances, very big concern. 75% paying back their student debt is their top concern. And this has become a barrier to where over a third of our high school students are saying that the financial concerns may lead them to pursue something other than a 4-year college degree. So recognizing this, we can look at some strategies to try to alleviate some of this and work with our members. The first thing that I recommend is to try to understand the financial culture of your chapter. It is, each group has a financial culture, and that culture is largely made up of the economic resources that the members have. There are many fraternity chapters we work with that come from primarily affluent families, and money and a difference of $100 a month in the rent payment and what they pay in social dues, those things aren't as critical or as important to them. But there's many campuses, especially the regional campuses or the smaller schools, tech schools. There are several where we will get into protracted battles with the chapter leaders over a $10 a month rent increase. And that's largely because these are students that are coming from the same level of economic resources. A lot of them are first-time students trying to pay their way through school. And so you have to understand that makeup and create programs around that. And so that can determine where you set your rent. It can help determine, other options that you may provide for housing and things to help the students. And so some of the strategies may be to create a housing scholarship program. We have examples of programs that can be awarded based on financial need. I personally believe that finances should not be a reason that a member can't participate in the chapter house experience. And I think there are some fairly easy ways to accommodate that. And another is result-based awards, where if members live in the chapter house and they serve as IFC president or as a chapter officer or a varsity athlete or in ROTC, the sorts of activities that you want your chapter members to be involved in that are going to make them a better person through that experience, and that in turn will make your fraternity chapter better because of the experiences that they're bringing to the table, the boost in reputation, the knowledge, the recognition, all of those sorts of things. So housing scholarships are also a very strong influence on recruitment as a benefit. Some chapters are using recruitment scholarships with success. So consider a scholarship program to try to address some of the financial needs there. And then another strategy is we want to encourage multi-semester occupancy in the chapter house. So you might consider locking in the first year rental rates for those that live in the chapter house more than 2 semesters, so that they aren't as impacted and that they have an incentive to stay that second year. So understand that finances are big on the minds and a big part of the decision making about living in the chapter house and how they participate in the fraternity. All right. Another thing that is greatly different and has evolved over the years is the makeup of our chapters from an ethnicity standpoint, from where those students are coming from, and the outlook that we have on acceptance of students from different locations, religions, and so forth. And, one of the things that the current students identify strongly with is that diversity is a must, and including people of all races, genders, national persuasions, all of that is important. And I say that, there's a little bit of irony in this, sadly, where we're seeing these protests and negative engagements on the college campuses regarding religion and ethnicity and some of those issues now. But as a whole, as you talk to the students, issues like racial equality, same-sex marriage, LGBTQ, those things are very important to them. And they have generally accepted gender-neutral pronouns. Now, however we feel about them, whether we think they're important or silly or aren't addressing reality. That's not how our members are looking at those things. They are looking at these issues as important issues that that let people express themselves, and they are in favor of that. And so beyond this, and as part of this, is that the members are very socially aware. They're aware of all of these issues, and in many cases, they are looking negatively upon prior generations who are handing some of these problems down to them. Things like climate change and high interest rates and hoarding wealth and things like that are common perceptions among the college students today, looking at other generations, and they feel like they're the ones that are going to have to step up and make the changes to address those. And so, one way to think of this is that, they have an attitude that says, if we don't do it, nobody will. And I want to be the one that makes that difference. So very socially aware. And I think we'll see a lot of social entrepreneurism and things like that in the future coming out of this group. So in this particular case, some strategies that I think are worth considering is that the alumni advisors or House Corporation or mentors, all of those people should be working with the chapter to recognize these issues and try to take some actionable steps that are going to be perceived as positive steps in this regard with the membership. Promote them undertaking a philanthropy or some sort of project that addresses these sorts of issues that are important to the group. And this largely has to come from a group consensus, because what may be vitally important to 2 or 3 members may not be important to the larger group. So a consensus on this is important. Another thing that I think we can do is make our housing facilities accessible and inclusive. Out of all of the fraternity chapter houses that we're involved with, there are only a handful. And usually it's only the ones that have been built in the last 15 years or so, where they truly have accessible facilities that someone in a wheelchair or people with other physical limitations can get in and enjoy. And so if you're working with an older chapter house or something like that, making that house more accessible with ramps, with bathroom facilities, lifts, and other things is something that can be a benefit. And then for the chapter advisors to be encouraging diversity inclusion. I believe there's a lot of proof, especially in fraternity and sorority environments, that having a diverse membership adds strength and perspective and maturity and knowledge as they interact and learn to look at the world through the eyes of another person. And as alumni, as advisors, we should be encouraging them to do this, and specifically discussing how they might want to do that through the recruitment process. What we find that happens in some groups is that they become very focused on a particular location or culture for their members. We might find a certain area code that if we look at the list of members in a chapter house, 30 to 50% of the members may come from one area code. In many cases, they're coming from, we might have a half a dozen or a dozen members from the same high school. You have to realize that when you do that, the culture of those members, as they have grown up and experienced life so far, largely can become the culture of the chapter as they do that. And it can become imbalanced and sometimes take it in a negative direction. So really looking at your membership um, really challenging them for diversity. When I talk to chapter leaders, we often, if you ask them who they're recruiting or what the strength of their chapter is, their default answer is we're recruiting quality men. Okay, well, you need to press them farther and say what makes someone a quality man or a quality person. What traits they have, what is their character, sorts of things. And when we talk to them about the strength of the chapter, they'll say our diversity. Okay, and go a little bit further and challenge them. What do you mean by diversity? How can you back that up? The fact that you have one member from Pakistan and one member from China out of 100 members, I don't know if that is truly a diverse chapter. And so you need to have those discussions, very open-minded, using open-ended questions, who, what, when, how, so forth, to have discussions on these, put the question out there, let them provide the answers, challenge them with more questions, and you can kind of lead them down a path that will make a difference in some of these issues. Another thing that is vitally important to today's students are their concerns over mental health issues. Only 45% of Gen Z students report having good or excellent mental health. That means that there's a perception amongst these students, more than half of them, that think they've got mental health challenges. And we see a lot of students that are on Adderall and that are on anxiety meds and all of these sorts of things. Perhaps a part of that is that mental health issues have become widespread as that those things need to be addressed and treated. That can be a good thing, but it's very high in their psyche. If we look at students that are entering college, we've got 70% of them that see anxiety and depression as a major problem within their peers. And some of this is, part of their technology focus may be causing some of this. They have been so focused on screen time, especially during their formative adolescent years, that it hasn't allowed them to cultivate as many meaningful relationships. And then there's this whole issue with social media where they're constantly comparing themselves to other people, and a lot of these unrealistic images and perspectives that are being shared, that they compare themselves to those people and feel they don't measure up, and that's a source of anxiety. And specifically, if we look at their perceived health problems, Pew Research Center did a study where I pulled this from. We see that 70% feel that anxiety and depression is a major problem. Another 26% view it as a minor problem. Bullying, drug addiction, alcohol, poverty, teen pregnancy, and gangs. We don't typically deal as much with the bottom few issues there, but these are all of significant concerns to the members. And to address these, I think that we as leaders, whether it be housing leaders or advisors or national staff, we need to connect our students with the mental health services on our campuses. Almost all campuses have expanded their mental health programs related to this. They recognize this and have expanded those programs. And to know what those programs are, to post some flyers in the chapter house about how they can get in touch with those services are things that, again, could be communicated during a recruitment or education new member program. We have multiple national fraternity and sorority groups that have launched their own mental health initiatives that include specific programming or include access to online apps for mental health programs. And the students, especially in their stage of development, are often very resistant to going and visiting a clinician in a campus mental health setting, and they're very comfortable with apps. And there's online therapists and online prevention services and things that are available 24/7. And getting your members connected with some of those apps, or letting them know those are available, those could be strong programs, especially if your national organization is providing free access to those apps. And then I would also recommend that from a local standpoint that you leverage your national fraternity and sorority resources on this, because most of the national groups have something in place that is addressing these topics. Because some of these things have been used in some of our facilities, we've actually had students that have prevented some suicides and some other bad things from happening. So very much something that we should be aware of and looking to support our members in. One of the things that has really taken shape over the last about 5 years is a difference in focus and approach to college majors and the programs that our members are seeking. More than ever before, they are interested in getting a good job and a well-paying job after college. That they want their college education to be designed to prepare them for a good career, to develop their skills. They want to do so in a way that they aren't generating a lot of financial aid or financial debt, and that they have an ability to try different things and direct their education rather than following a very rigid curriculum. And so majors that are predominant now continue to be business-related majors. I think that's the more graduates pursue business-related degrees than ever before. The STEM programs, science, technology, mathematics, analytics, those things are important. Computer science and programming and artificial intelligence, some of these emerging technologies are big majors and programs of interest. Nursing is a program. And then we're also seeing less and less people enter four-year degree programs because there is such demand, a shortage in, let's say, the building trade programs. There's shortages in carpentry and electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters. And a lot of times people can not only get that education at a significantly reduced price, there are many opportunities where an employer will pay them to go through that education, not only paying for their classes, but may pay for their time, so they earn a wage while they're actually in the class and doing that. So knowing that these are very important to our students, these are some areas where I feel that fraternities and sororities can have a significant competitive advantage over other organizations and other housing alternatives. If we can create programs where we can connect our members with internships and first job opportunities, that is huge to these men and is a huge recruitment scenario. And this is as easy as sending a newsletter around once or twice a year where the members list all of their career interests and what type of internships or jobs they're looking for. And that may get distributed amongst the fraternity alumni who look at it. And we've had several members placed get internships or first jobs where, someone says, this person is looking for an accounting internship. I run an accounting agency. We need accounting first year people, so we'll connect them. And so that's a very simple, easy program that can have a big impact on the perception of the members as far as the value of the alumni interaction and the value of the fraternity experience. Another very easy thing to do is have alumni-led career discussions where you may have a group of students that are interested in engineering, and to get a couple alumni members that are engineers to lead a question and answer session on a Zoom meeting for an hour where those students can ask them about different opportunities, different education paths, any questions they have about that. We find that the students really value that. And if you can take it a step further where you might have a alumni member that's willing to mentor a couple people, let's say there's an alumni lawyer and he's willing to mentor, have a meeting a month, let's say, with a few chapter members that are trying to get into law school or that sort of thing. Those, again, are very strongly well received by the members. And then another thing you can do is provide some housing flexibility for members that may need to take a semester off for internships or study abroad activities. Those can be valuable things that we can add to our members. Understand that Gen Z may learn a little bit differently. Many of us, as we came through college, it was very much a book learning process. We read about it, we memorize it, we regurgitate it on a test, and we get a grade. That's not the preferred method of learning for many of the students today. They really want a hands-on experience where they can not only learn about the data, but figure out how to apply it very quickly. They like to work with their hands. They like working through examples where they can see how the data is applied to real life's circumstances. And then, more of the traditional path that we have used in previous educating settings has been seeing, reading, that sort of thing. Only 38% prefers that as a learning method. And then we have a smaller percentage that's more interested in listening and classroom lectures and things like that. So understand that hands-on examples, things that they have to problem solve, those are opportunities that if you're creating programming, creating them to try to touch on these different education preferences can be a benefit to you. Another thing that's quite a bit different from how we may have perceived the fraternity in prior years is that the housing model has really evolved to a different experience than most of us would recognize. Today, there's less interest in living the chapter house. I think there are a number of reasons for that. I think that in many cases, the alumni have abdicated or pushed down responsibilities onto the shoulders of the members that are too great for them to provide a really good living experience in the chapter house. And we continue to have some problems with the condition of some of our facilities where people may not want to live in them as much. And so, this is something that as an industry or as a movement, we should really be looking at taking strategic action across the board to improve this. But today, the chapter house is really viewed more as a social event space than anything else. That's primarily the experience that if there isn't a well-rounded chapter with advising and encouraging philanthropy and brotherhood activities and academic activities, things like that, the chapter houses are really just becoming a place for social events. And through poor policies and other reasons, members have determined that they can live out of house in an apartment or other areas and still have the benefit of that social experience at the chapter house without any of the problems that may come with it. Living in the chapter house today is really perceived as a sophomore experience. On most of the larger public campuses, it's live in the dormitories the first year, live in the chapter house the second year, live in a annex with my pledge classmates, or what we call a junior house, your third year, and then live in an apartment or something else as a senior is kind of the progression that we see there. And we've really seen on the major campuses a proliferation of annexes, what we call annexes, but the members call junior houses, where the pledge classes of the juniors rent a big house together. Their perception is they're free of the social requirements and risk management at these places that may be placed on them by the national fraternity or the university or its IFC, and they become kind of a secondary social outlet for the fraternity at these places. And all of this has really resulted in a lot of occupancy challenges for the people that are overseeing the chapter houses. And on the good side of things, there are some strategies that can be used to address this. You should be developing programs to maintain occupancy, the chapter house. We have some best practices that we could consult with on that, and I think we'll actually be doing an upcoming seminar on that here in the next few months. Some of these policies can include that the officers must live in the chapter house. My belief is strongly that you will have a substantial benefit and a better chapter and chapter house experience if you can get 20 to 30% of the members living in to be upperclassmen. There's just something that happens in the development of a person between their sophomore and junior year, where the level of maturity and responsibility increases, and you have this tribal knowledge where the senior members can be advising and helping the junior members navigate the areas. So whatever you can do, if you can make it a requirement that the chapter officers live in the chapter house, that's usually 5 to 8 people that if you change offices in January, they're going to be living in at least the first semester of their next year as an officer, and can be a benefit. Another big reason why MEM don't want to live in the chapter house is that it's not competitive with the other housing options. On all of these campuses, we're seeing high-rise apartments that are beautiful, that are coming in, and that the men can live in those facilities and have a private bathroom, a private bedroom, all of those sorts of areas that you may not have in the fraternity house. I still believe more than 2/3 of the fraternity houses that we're involved with don't have air conditioning. And you have to understand that these members have never known a situation where they haven't had their own private room, where they haven't had a bathroom to themselves, or that might be shared with 1 or 2 other siblings. And the house, has air conditioning. And so if we don't have those sorts of amenities, the members aren't going to want to continue to live there. And in addition to the members, many times the parents are driving the housing decisions. And if the parents don't feel that the chapter house is a good place to live, you may not get them to live in it all. And to do this, as we've polled our members and as we've operated these facilities, we really believe that these are the top housing preferences that you should be trying to drive at your facilities. The first thing is the fastest internet service possible. Um, the These members are on the internet ever more than ever before. Um, they have, they might have 5 or more devices in their room that are connected to the internet, and that is just increasing every day. The second thing is a high quality bedroom. Um, they want a nice space for their own where they sleep. When the parents come and they move their son into his room and the room's in good condition, you're off to a good start there. And so, you can see some of the other things here. I'll touch on a few. Privacy in bathrooms is very important to them. The old locker room style showers are a thing of the past. Even if you have kind of a group shower, they are divided off or partitioned into private areas. Privacy is another kind of default requirement that the students have. Another thing I'll touch on is meal programs. I think that we have not done a good job in providing a good dining experience for our members, because we tend to many times push that down on the chapter's shoulders and have them create their own meal program. The members often don't understand the benefit of a good meal program beyond just filling their stomach. The ability to sit down together, to share time at a meal, to do so in a way without other distractions, where they can build relationships with other people, is huge. And if you're going to leave it up to the chapter to define their own meal program, it's going to be a buffet, and they're going to grab a styrofoam container, they're going to fill it up, and they're going to go back to their bedroom, or they're going to go sit in front of the TV and watch the screens, and that is their dining experience. And I think that we can do better than that we can have group dining experiences at least once or twice a week, where we can avoid that and promote some other benefits of building the relationships. On this similar point here, I think that we as leaders need to be aware of an impending drop in enrollment that's going to be coming over the next few years. And some of the factors that I mentioned before about people not getting 4-year degrees and going into the trade education and so forth are related to this. But the other big influence here is that if we look at the Great Recession, which was really kind of 2007 through 2011, that period there, people stopped having babies for financial reasons at that time. And, we're now 18 years later, where those new births from that period would be entering college, and they went, they just didn't have the same birth rates. So, beginning over the next year or so, we're going to start seeing a decline. And this is going to impact the smaller schools and the regional schools the most. The top tier institutions can just go further down into their application list to fill their classes, but it's going to be the other one, the smaller schools, that are going to suffer. And we've already seen some closures in groups that are suffering post-pandemic. We may see more of that going forward. So if your organization is in a smaller campus that may see declining enrollment, again, you need to really take some steps now with helping your students learn how to recruit, going to a 365 recruiting model rather than just the formal campus rush programs. You need to be putting policies in place that are going to require and maintain occupancy in your chapter house. If you don't do that, you may find that your group's in trouble and either the chapter is fizzling or you may not be able to produce the revenue needed in your chapter house to keep it going. So I appreciate your time. I hope I've given you some information that is a benefit, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding this. And I'm trying to get to our queue. Hold on. You're welcome. I'm not sure if we can give everybody the opportunity to speak, but either in the chat or if you can unmute yourself and participate, we would welcome that. Okay, at this time, I don't see any open questions in the Q&A. We have a comment here. It says, this is not a question, but regarding the internet, most likely you will need to go with a business internet service. That's correct. Thank you for that program. I have a question from John. What are some best practices to increase junior year enrollment? By enrollment, I'm assuming you're talking about junior year occupancy in the chapter house. So I think, as I mentioned first, having juniors live in the chapter house. The second is a membership agreement where when people join the chapter, that it's made clear to them that the residential experience is a primary function or a primary role in their fraternity experience, and that there should be requirements to live in the chapter house a certain number of time, 2 semesters, 4 semesters, whatever. There can be a destacking process that if there's more people that want to live in, who is able to live out of house and how that destacks. A program where if there are empty beds in the chapter house, the members that have not fulfilled their housing obligation pay an additional fee that that makes up the difference. We recommend a discussion and a memorandum or an operating agreement, some 1 to 2 page agreement between the House Corporation and the chapter leaders about their responsibility to recruit and fill the chapter house and what happens if there are shortages in the chapter house. You have to understand that you have new officers coming in every year that you have to completely re-educate on these policies. And if you don't do that, they're going to make their own policies that doesn't necessarily prioritize the residential experience. So those are a few strategies that you might consider using for that. I have a suggestion from Locke. Rent is fixed for those staying for an additional year, basically locks in rent at whatever they pay sophomore year. May increase, that may increase juniors and even a few seniors. I agree with that, Locke. What we find especially in organizations that have a lot of affluent members, that doesn't have as much influence as you would like. The ideal scenario is to create programs and amenities and advantages to living in the chapter house that makes men want to live in. So I really look at it as a carrot and a stick sort of approach, where we want to provide the amenities and the benefits that give us a competitive advantage. And we have to have the policies in place that backstop that, so that if we do have low occupancy times, we have an opportunity to maintain our revenue stream. All right, I think I've hit on a lot of these questions. I appreciate that. Not seeing anything additional in the queue. We're running up. We're at 12:56. Our goal was to keep this in under an hour. I think we've accomplished that. Again, thank you very much for participating. Please feel free to reach out to me or members of our staff about this, or to contact us with any of your questions. I'm going to conclude the presentation, but I will hang online for another few minutes if there's anybody else that would like to ask questions. I've seen a new question come in from Michael about 365 recruiting. I'll talk about that for a few minutes, but if you have to drop off the presentation, we certainly understand. We'll stay for those that have additional questions or that we might be able to help. So thanks very much. And Michael, your question about 365 recruiting, what we have found is that our groups that are struggling with recruitment are very frequently relying on the IFC or university formal recruiting dates and events for their recruitment. And in effect, they're expecting people to sign up and to self-direct themselves to, and come to their chapter house and enter the house and be recruited. And it's those groups, be it a bad recruitment chairman or lazy, or it's always worked before and now they're finding the sting that it's not working as well. The formal recruitment process isn't producing the results that it may have 10 or 20 years ago. And so the groups that are successful are engaging in a year-round recruitment effort in which it's very simple, that they invite freshmen or men in their classes or others that they meet, or people from their high school or whatever, to come up to the house for a meal on Sunday night and get introduced around, that they are invited to social events. Basically every brotherhood event, social event, philanthropy event, all of those sorts of things can be recruitment events. You just simply bring someone up and introduce them to other people. And it's searching out those members and going to them to invite them versus waiting for people to walk in your front door is really the difference between groups that are succeeding and groups that are struggling. Hopefully that answered your question, Michael. To John and Locke, I appreciate your thank yous for that. If there's anybody else that has a question or that we can help, please reach out through email or phone. We'd be happy to help you. And with that, I'm going to end the presentation. Thank you very much. Bye.